Good morning. I'm happy to be with you this morning, and I'd like to share Psalm 142. It says, "A maskil of David when he was in the cave, a prayer. I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice to the Lord for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who watch over me. Watch over my way. In the path where I walk, people have hidden a snare for me. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. I cry to you, Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me." As I was reading this psalm last week during my daily reading, a couple things stood out to me. The first thing was the title. It says, "A maskil of David when he was in the cave." And this is interesting because some of the psalms actually have titles that are part of the inspired text. It wasn't put in by the editors of the Bible. This is what God put in his word. So part of this message to us from the psalm is the context that David was in a cave. And I was thinking about how David was running for his life. He was hiding in a cave, desperate, alone. And these are the words that he pours out to the Lord. Probably none of us have ever been running for our lives and hiding in a cave, a physical cave. But I think all of us can kind of identify with what David is experiencing. Because we've been in caves of depression, caves of anxiety, caves of maybe addiction, or caves of feeling like we've been abandoned or that our friends have turned their backs on us. And we kind of know a little bit of what he's feeling, where he says, I'm in desperate need, right? So it's interesting, God kind of gives us this as a model of what do we do when we're in those situations. And we see how David cries out. So that's one thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed was what he says, where he says, no one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. What's interesting is that immediately in the next verse he says, I cry to you, Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. And it seems kind of like a contradiction. First he says, I have no refuge. And then he says, you are my refuge. And I think is what he's saying is that there's sometimes where there is no human refuge for us. There's no one who can come to our rescue. There's no one we can find our hope in. There's no one who can actually come and save us in the situation that we're in, humanly speaking. But I think David realizes that when he's in that kind of situation, it's not completely hopeless. In fact, on the contrary, it's not hopeless at all. Because even though there's no human who can come to his aid, God is his refuge. And he realizes that's where I cry out to God. That's where I find my hope in God. That's where I find my strength in God. When there's nobody else who can come to my rescue, God will rescue me. And so I want to encourage you today, if you are in one of those moments of great despair, of great pain, of hopelessness, and you feel like you're in this dark, deep cave where there's nobody who can understand you, nobody who can come to rescue you, I want to encourage you to do what David did and cry out to the Lord and seek him and say to him, you, Lord, can set me free. You, Lord, can rescue me. You, Lord, can show your goodness to me even though there's no human help on the way. I've seen that work in my own life where I've cried out to God and he's come to my rescue in ways that I couldn't really understand, but I knew that he was there for me. In another place in the Psalms, Psalm 23 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. You can be in the valley of the shadow of death, but you can also be confident and you can also have hope because God is with you. He'll sustain you. He'll lift you up. He'll give you hope. He'll give you peace when you cry out to him and put your trust in him. I invite you to do that today. We'll be praying for you. May God bless you.